David Smith here with another flipped classroom math video. A few tips before we start. Remember that you can speed up or slow down the playback if that helps you follow along. You can also pause the video at any point to catch up with your notes or to try the problems before I explain. Lastly, you can turn on the captions and follow along with my words on the bottom of your screen. Today's topic, finding x given y. So what we're going to do, remember a couple lessons ago we gave you x and you found y, and indeed in the last lesson we used that technique to plot points for our parabola. So now we're going to reverse that a little bit, and we're going to start off by giving you the y value and having you figure out what the x could be. So it's plug in y and solve for x. Pretty straightforward. And it's going to rest on a lot of the techniques we used before when we were solving quadratic equations. So here's our equation. X squared plus 4x minus 5. Now our first one here is find x if y equals 0. So we're going to plug in 0 for y. Here's our y right there. Equals x squared plus 4x minus 5. Now when we look at this one, we're going to see that this is factorable. There are two numbers that multiply to negative 5 but add up to positive 4. And those two numbers are plus 5 and negative 1. So plus 5, let's just leave the plus off. Plus 5 times negative 1 equals minus 5, and plus 5 plus negative 1 equals 4. So we know these are our two numbers that work for factoring. So we'll have 0 equals x plus 5 times x minus 1. So that's factoring this quadratic into these two binomials. These two times these two. Okay? Now if you recall, you can FOIL these two binomials, and when you're done with that work, you should wind up back here. So if you want to review that technique, you should do that. So we're not quite done yet. Now we know that this thing times that thing equals 0. So we have two little equations to solve. If this thing is 0, doesn't matter what that is, the whole thing is 0. So let's solve that one. This is x plus 5 equals 0. Now subtract 5 from both sides and we get x equals negative 5. Now we have two solutions for this quadratic. Let's solve this one. X minus 1 equals 0. Add 1 to both sides. X equals 1. So we have two solutions, which can be written this way. Minus 5 and 1. So both of these numbers, when plugged back into this equation, make y 0. And that's what we just did when we solved this. We set y equal to 0, we factored, and we solved each of these binomials, and we got our two solutions. Okay? Now, if you feel really rusty on your factoring, or you weren't with me this fall, and you need to do some practicing on factoring, let me know. I've got lots of videos that talk about how that works. Okay, what I'd like to do now, action. Okay, what I'd like to do now is turn you loose on this one. Same process, but now instead of plugging in 0 for y, you're going to plug in negative 9 for y. Okay, so pause the video, give that a shot. Okay, let's see how you did. So first step is to put in negative 9 for y. So we have minus 9 equals x squared plus 4x minus 5. Now if you recall, our technique for solving quadratic equations is to set one side equal to 0 and factor or do other things to find our solution. So our first step in this one is going to be to add 9 to both sides, and we'll get 0 equals x squared plus 4x. Negative 5 plus 9 is 4. Now this one factors nicely because it's actually a perfect square. The two numbers that multiply to 4 and add to 4 are just 2. So this one is x plus 2 times x plus 2, which we can write again as 0 equals x plus 2 squared. Okay, so that's your perfect square factorization. Now to solve, we need to get x alone, so we take the square root of both sides. So that takes off the square. Square root of 0, still 0. So 0 equals x plus 2. Subtract 2 from each side, and I'm going to get x equals negative 2. So this one has just one solution, and that's negative 2. So this problem had two different values of x that solved the equation that made it equal to 0. But when we plug in 9 for y, there's only one solution, and that's negative 2. I want to give you one more to try. I know these might be challenging, especially if you're a little rusty with your factoring. So let's take a look at this one here. Same issue. We're going to plug in y and solve for x, but we have a new function, y equals x squared minus 4x minus 10. And now we're going to find x when y is 2. Okay? So if you feel up to it, go ahead, pause the video right now and see if you can find the values of x. Okay, let's see how you did. First step, plug in 2 for y. So we have 2 equals x squared minus 4x minus 10. We want the y side set equal to 0, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides and get 0 equals x squared minus 4x minus 12. Now I want to look and see if I can factor this. Two numbers that multiply to negative 12 and add up to negative 4. And those two numbers are negative 6 and positive 2. Because negative 6 times positive 2 is negative 12. And negative 6 plus positive 2 is negative 4. So that lets us write the following. X minus 6 times x plus 2. Oops, we need an equals there. And again, you can FOIL these two binomials, and if you do that right, it should take you right back there. So now, to find our solutions, we do our little branch. X minus 6 equals 0. Add 6 to both sides, and we get x equals 6. That's our first solution. Set this one equal to 0, x plus 2 equals 0. Subtract 2 from each side, x equals negative 2. So our two solutions are minus 2 and 6. Now that you've finished, take a moment to write down any questions so you can bring them to our next class and get some help. You can also watch the video again to improve your understanding. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button down below, and if you'd like to help me grow my YouTube channel, please click subscribe.